coach makes more impact in a year on people's lives than most people do in a lifetime. So if you think about what is represented in this room of, wow, all these coaches, how many lives you will make an impact on forever. And at this time, we're going to be honoring one special man. I'm happy to know that Scott is here to see this, as well as I'm here to present an amazing Master Coach Award. 45 years ago, Coach Homer Drew came into my life as my coach. And it was one of the most greatest things that had ever happened to me. And I think that many times as I look back and reflect upon this 45-year relationship, I think we all can apply to it, because we all have relationships with our players, and they continue long after they graduate and move on. So the Master Coach Award is an award that's different than any other award, because it's an award based on not only those relationships with the players, but the relationship and impact they've had because of Jesus Christ in their life. And Coach Homer Drew is a great example of that. I'd like to go ahead and share my personal story, and hopefully it'll inspire you to share a little bit about your personal story, because each one of you have the opportunity to be a master coach. 45 years ago, as I said, he came into my life as my coach, but he did so much more. Coach Homer Drew's coaching tree is almost like what Nation of Coaches stands for. It was James Naismith who started a game of basketball to lead young men to the master coach, Jesus. And that James Naismith had a tremendous impact on a guy named Johnny Wooden, who we all also realize is a master coach. And a guy that had a tremendous impact then from Johnny Wooden's days was Dale Brown. And Dale Brown had a tremendous impact on Coach Homer Drew. And Coach Homer Drew had a great impact on my life. So Coach Drew has had so many Hall of Fame honors and so many great accomplishments in his life. But this one is really special because the Master Coach is all about Jesus and what he's done and how he's represented his career. And so it's honoring for me to think about the things that he did for me. One of the most important things I think a coach can do is make sure that anybody's in coaching has balance, as Scott shared. And so it was Coach Drew that took a young guy to his home and my young bride, and we sat down in their living room, and he explained to me what a coach's wife and life would be like. Janet Drew shared with Jackie what it was going to be like on the bench, on the sidelines, the time away, and all those things. That's what a master coach does. He invests in his lives of his players beyond the time that he has them as a coach. And we look back on that. Many times my wife and I said, how do we stay in this so long? It was because the advice that Janet Drew and Homer Drew gave us years ago. A master coach also continues to have a relationship with his players in good times and bad. Don't forget that, men, because every one of your players that you have and players that you will coach will go through tough times. And in my personal life, when I dealt with tragic things that have happened, the first guy there was the master coach, Homer Drew, who wanted to pray with me, support me, and be along the way. And I will say this openly, that this master coach has more impact, or as much impact, than my own personal dad had, because of his life and how he lived his life. As a parent, the master coach is an amazing parent. You can see it on what Scott was talking about, and Bryce and Dana. But one of my favorite stories is the year after I graduated, I went to a game that Coach Drew was playing in his coaching, his most important game he's ever coached in his life, because if he wins this game, he takes his team to the national championship. Ironically, I had graduated, so I think that's the reason why we didn't get the year before. But besides that, I went into the gymnasium, a small gym, Bethel College. I looked around, I couldn't find him anywhere. And 45 minutes before the game, Coach Drew, I can't find him. Go into the locker room, he's not there. So I finally go into his office. 45 minutes before the game, the biggest game of his coaching career as a head coach. And there's Scott and Bryce sitting on his lap, and Coach Drew is reading them a book. That's a master coach. When he has the biggest game of his life and he is still being a dad, and that branded it on me, that nothing is more important than my kids than any other game, guys. And his sons knew that, and his daughter knew that. A master coach is a great parent. And finally, a master coach is a great husband. It's been well documented, the health situation where Janet and Homer both had cancer at the same time. They're in the hospital at the same time. And Coach, even though he had cancer, his main focus was not on him at all, none at all. It was all on his bride, his queen, his person that he had a great teammate. And so he spent all his time. He's been an incredible caretaker and lover of his wife. That is a master coach. So as you look at the life of Coach Drew, you see him as a dad, you see him as a husband, you see him as a coach, but we see him as a man of Christ. So I'm just really thankful that I've had the opportunity to know this man for 45 years. Remember this. How many times in your life will you think, what would Coach do? Almost every day of my life, I would say, what would Coach Drew do? And then I would make a decision. So at this time, I'd like to have Coach Drew come out here and let's recognize him as the Master Coach of 2021.
Thank you.